This is our discussion of the 1998 film Ever After from Load Bearing Beams, episode 25, from February 23rd, 2018. Hello.
Hello.
This is Load Bearing Beams, the podcast where we talk about movies.
I'm in the wrong place. Shit. Just kidding. I also work here.
And her name is Lacey Roth.
I'm Lacey Roth. We're married. We are a couple. We are betrothed then.
To each other, yeah.
Indeed.
My name's Matt Stokes. I thought we'd do the thing where I said your name and you'd say my thing.
It's all about me right now.
I have a giant tattoo of Lacey's name on my arm.
It's not that
well,
big.
it says it's big because it's a big white pasty arm with nothing on it but the words Mr. Roth.
Yeah.
And I got blood drawn today and from that arm, and the blood technician, the blood doctor commented on it and said you're Mr. Roth, and I said yes I am, and I had to then explain
that I'm Mrs. Stokes
and
only
that you have a tattoo, but it's a tiny little tattoo in a part of your body nobody will ever see.
I specifically put it above my jean lines for when I'm feeling saucy. And they wanted to put it a little bit lower, and then it truly would have never been seen. Fuck off. It's the coolest thing about you.
Comparative. This is my tattoo. Well,
yeah.
That sucks. Oh. Okay.
You had that coming.
Oh.
You're like, why is this?
All right. Well, if you hear me pouting throughout the podcast today, that's why.
An audible pout. That sounds like
Isn't a pout always audible? It's
no. That's a whimper. A pout is on your face. That's why it's called a pout when you have pouty lips. It's a face. You think it's an audible thing
I thought
to
it was
have
both.
pouty lips?
I thought you make a face with an accompanying noise. But listen, this is why we do this, is so we can learn about
I'm
each other.
pouting. I'm a pout face. Sorry, I was just trying to audibly pout. Okay, so this is a podcast about movies and relationships. We've covered the relationship thing. That is over. You and me are fucking done. Clearly. All right, number 2, movies. We still... that was an audible pout. We watch movies from our childhood, past, whatever.
Or adolescence.
There you go.
Or young adulthood.
Oh, sweet. Fuck. Okay, so they have to be a movie we haven't seen in a while. That way it could be that the movie is... when viewed now, not so great. That there has to be that tension, and we have to be presenting it to someone who has not seen it. In this case, our husband and or wife, and saying, "Look, this is good. Watch it." And then we audibly pout.
And then we hope it's good. We watch it together. It's tense. We don't share our feelings until we
gather
together on this podcast to reveal what we thought of the other person's movie.
It's the only time we see each other.
In this case, Lacey picked Ever After, a Drew Barrymore vehicle about Cinderella, the historical Cinderella.
Indeed.
Yes. And I picked X-Men.
The historical X-Men.
Hugh Jackman claw movie.
But like the real guy in real life who had claws.
That's right.
Yeah.
Clawman.
And he has a name that bothers me, but I like him.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
This is maybe the first thing I ever learned about Lacey was her beef with Hugh Jackman. But that's how it goes. I'm
audibly pounding right now.
Yeah. If this is an abbreviated episode, we apologize in advance.
For the really long opening.
Yeah.
The abbreviated episode.
I think every time I've announced it's going to be a short episode, it ends up being a long episode.
We're gonna go another hour
We're getting on a plane in like 25 minutes, so.
Okay.
Well, let's discuss Ever After.
Oh, good.
Welcome home, Monsieur Le Seigneur. I see you have brought us a baroness.
Say hello to your new stepsister.
Mademoiselle?
Throughout these hard times, I have sheltered you, clothed you, and cared for you. All that I ask in return is that you help me here without complaint. Is that such an extraordinary request?
Just breathe. I shall try. The plethora of accents Mrs. Barrymore tries on for this movie.
At one point, she just stops entirely.
Yeah. Then
she's just American.
Just never mind. I'm
with
very
like
upset.
Like occasionally, but yeah. we're talking Ever After,
Saya.
as most of you are every day. It's talking about this movie from
It's got one of
1998,
those movie
directed
ti-
by Andy Tennant, starring Drew Barrymore,
What else did she
Angelica
try?
Houston, and Mr. Dougray Scott.
Ooh.
Now, this movie again came out in '98. Lacey would have been 14 at the time, so this is a kind of an older kid movie for you. Why don't you tell us about your history with Ever After?
All right. Well, I don't know. No, I do. It was just charming. It's a delightful movie about it's a very girly movie.
When did you first watch it?
I don't know. I'm sure I saw it in
This
theaters.
is taking you by surprise. We talk about this on every single episode. You're like, what?
Whatever. I'm just saying. It's not. I was inspired to pick this movie because our kid just had us watch the live action version of Cinderella, and I, while watching that, thought, oh, this was done better before. We should watch Ever After. And I thought, well, maybe the tone will be too dark or something, because I was a little bit older when I saw it, and I do remember that this movie making me not cry, but it's a sadder version. It's more real. It's a little.
The hook of it is it's supposedly real life story of King Henry II of France and his romance with a commoner. That supposedly inspired the Cinderella story. So there's no magic in this story.
Except for
there's
that
no
Leonardo
talking
da
mice.
Vinci.
Well, Leonardo da Vinci's there the whole time.
He's the fairy godfather.
It's like magical in the way like Pretty Woman is a Cinderella story and has
Exactly,
magic
right.
in it, but it's not actual magic.
No,
it's
right.
just like
It-
magic. It's just
It truly was something to write a story about. If this actually took place, it'd be worth jotting down.
And it opens with some lady
Licking the tip of a pin
after
with
the
a feather.
French Revolution. She's looking at a painting of Drew
It's
Barrymore,
far-
and the Brothers Grimm are
but
in her
it's-
bedroom.
Okay, but it's far too Titanic adjacent, and Titanic having just come
Well,
out.
that's true.
It's that's unnecessary. I feel like the entire story could have happened, and there's no need for an old lady to have told it.
Well, I mean,
Right? I mean, the story. I don't understand for it to start.
I
that
fucking,
way.
but I fucking love this. I love the idea of like, hey, the Brothers Grimm are here, and because the Brothers Grimm went around Europe collecting oral tales, because their goal was let's write down all these stories that everybody knows, but everybody tells in their own way and puts their own spin on, and we're going to
Shut
make the authorized, authoritative versions of them. Now, the Brothers Grimm didn't make the famous version of Cinderella, and the Grimms primarily worked with German stories.
So
Their goal
it was
was
a
to
giant goose that actually probably went around and got this story,
a giant goose.
like a motherly kind of goose.
No,
Is that who wrote
not Mother
this?
Goose? No.
Oh.
It's actually kind of interesting. Before Germany was a unified state, a country by itself, there were just scattered German independent kingdoms of people who spoke German languages, and there was no shared cultural identity. There's no idea that we're all German together, and the Grimm's goal was, let's collect all these stories that we all know and make it a crucial part of our identity as Germans. So we're all Germans, and we all know the story of Rapunzel, and we all know Rumpelstiltskin, and we
Okay,
all...
but Cinderella's not.
Cinderella's
of
not,
That. Okay.
but
Because it's-
they probably would have heard the story. And they might have done a version too, but
it just didn't take off.
the famous version of Cinderella is not by them. But the point is, in this prologue, this old lady's telling her version of Cinderella because these stories existed, in a time before the Brothers Grimm and a time before Disney movies and stuff. Everybody had their own
Oral history.
version of this story, and so that's what the idea of this movie is. And I guess the other idea is let's make Cinderella have her name is Danielle, have agency and ideas, and
Yes, I love.
saves herself.
And what gelled
feminist,
for me,
basically.
what gelled for me about this version was everything takes on a much more realistic, palatable, everyday feel, which makes it just mean more. So, like, I always found it very aggravating that Cinderella that it's love at first sight, that the love of her and this prince is based on one, maybe 3 hours of an evening. It always just seemed, I don't like the unearned we know we must be together thing, because I always feel like the ever after doesn't actually end up happening and they're miserable. So I do appreciate that this version takes time to develop some kind of real rapport that her and the prince have, and that it's earned, and that it still takes place 3 days, but
sure, but you do get actually kind of a lot of screen time of Drew Barrymore and the prince played by Dougray Scott. They're on camera a lot, actually talking to each other and talking about things
and intriguing each other, and like getting emotions high. It's not just like, oh, you're very good looking. Oh my, you're very good looking. It's the things that they say ignite certain changes in each other, and they inspire each other. They make each other laugh. They hit all the markers I need them to hit for me to think, okay, this is an earned
in a
relationship.
much more substantive way than the new live action Disney version
That-
did,
and I was-
which had had the
toyed
prince
with it.
meeting Cinderella early, and that's where they first bond, and then later
But they
meet at the
bond
bond.
with looks.
But
Yeah,
and
it's
and like
aggravating.
Cinderella's defining trait in that movie is she's kind and she's optimistic
if
and
you can
always
be
be nice
anything,
and
be
kind.
kind.
But in Ever After, Danielle, the Cinderella character, is smart, and she reads philosophy. She reads Thomas More's Utopia, and there's a point in the movie where her evil stepmother, Angelica Houston,
Who
makes
is
her
just
basically
normal, put upon woman evil. Like, she's an asshole, true, but
Yeah.
she's not evil.
Right,
You know,
right.
she just shitty.
exactly. She's an ass. She's a terrible asshole.
She married for love once. That guy died. She then marries this guy because she needs to better her situation. She's got 2 grown daughters she's got to take care of. She's losing money. And then they get married. As soon as he moves her in, within a fortnight, he fucking drops dead. She's in a town she doesn't know. She's with people she doesn't know. And she realizes she didn't really develop that relationship. She loved him, but he was never going to love her as much as his daughter. So I'm angry. Let me decide that the reason that I need to be angry is because of this stupid little girl, Danielle. I'm sorry, the children
Who
were
she-
not grown. I
Well,
forgot.
but they're-
They come in when they're like 8 or 9 or 10 or
Right,
something.
but she describes her as a pebble in her shoe.
That's-
But
yeah.
the movie takes the time to show you that to Danielle, the relationship is totally different. That this is the primary adult figure I've grown up with in my life, and she doesn't love me, and I just want her to pay attention to me and love me.
I just want to please her.
Looms so much huger as a figure for her than the other way around, which is a very interesting dynamic
Right, and
to explore, and
complete-
the movie actually explores it.
Well, and completely logical, because
Mm-hmm.
of course, when you're a scared child, someone who does hold your fate in their hand, and controls whether you're going to have any kind of a parent that has any love for you, you're going to decide that if I just It also explains how Danielle morphs into a servant, because in other stories, she just all of a sudden becomes the servant, like it was a natural role. But no, if you're a little girl who lost both her mother and her father, and this woman who doesn't like you yet, you convince yourself there's a way to get her to like you, if only you just do exactly what she tells you to do every day. Take the crap that it's going to turn into something more than just you're a servant. But no, 10 years goes by and you've got mud on your face, literally. So I also love in this one that one of the sisters, like, that they're all just one bad day away from becoming the person with the shit end of the stick, because it's a harsh time. This woman was not raised, because she talks about her mom. Angelica Houston talks about how her mom was with her. She was not raised in a way to show love, to feel love, or to expect it. So she raises her daughters that way too, and so she's got a less attractive daughter and a more attractive daughter, and so that less attractive daughter only gets to be middle class because Danielle's there to be the underclass.
Yeah.
If not for Danielle, and that daughter feels it the whole time, that she's just a bad day away from becoming the servant. That when Danielle is sick, doesn't feel like doing something, one time that she does, that daughter is instantly told to go do that thing.
Right,
She's
right.
like, I knew it!
This is the daughter whose mother is telling her, like, no, you're going to the ball to eat. That's why
right,
you're
she
going. That's what
clearly
we expect
doesn't-
of you. We don't expect you to bring a marriage prospect to this family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then all you have is your ability to be above the person underneath. So that's really well. It's all super believable and unfortunate and interesting. Mm-hmm. Especially. Well, anyway, I love the arc of that sister, and
Yeah, it's kind of lurking in the background the whole movie, ends up mattering and paying off in the end.
She might. I always did kind of suspect that she maybe gets a bigger payoff than she deserves. She did spend 10 years treating Danielle like shit also.
Right.
Or going, she's a kid too. What is she going to do? She's got to look out for her situation. she ends up doing the right thing in the end, and I think, I mean, I'm good with that.
Like Dudley and Harry Potter. Kind of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's Dudley?
Harry's fat cousin, who's mean to him
He
their
was-
whole lives, but
does he
then in the
become nice?
final book he becomes nice because Harry saved him from a
I
Dementor.
do not remember this.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Okay. His name's Dudley.
I was the Grimm's brothers did do a Cinderella
Oh, okay.
fairy tale, but the famous version came by Charles Perrault in the 17th century.
Well, but anyway, the best part is you and Macy. Like, I mean, I don't think I could pick another movie that I think is good, and then you and our 7-year-old end up enjoying it as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least it seemed like you did. I mean, there were a couple parts where you're like, nope.
Oh, this is kind of a great movie. It's delightful. I like movies about the medieval period, or even the Renaissance, because this is the Renaissance. But any movie that takes place in this period that shows that life back then was just shitty in general and dirty.
I was going to say that before Game of Thrones, this is another example of a period piece that actually makes you feel the right way. They put so much thought into costumes for Renaissance-related movies and don't bother to dirty them up or make them look old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these people didn't own 50 gowns. They had their nice dress and then the one that they wore every day to work in.
Did you ever see the Pride and Prejudice movie with Keira Knightley from 2005? That one did it too.
That one did it too.
It was
I just love
this
that.
movie's set in 1807 or whatever, and it actually looks like it.
The dirt around the
yeah.
bottom of the dresses and the layers and layers of unflattering crap underneath everything.
Even if you were literally at the king's court, things would still kind of suck because you're living in the 1500s.
Yeah, right. You're still just scraping by because you're in the court.
Yep.
You're only one public shame away from getting the fuck out.
I enjoyed pretty much all of the performances. Drew Barrymore's always never really done it for me, but in this movie, I think it's definitely the best thing. I think the best work I've ever seen her do. Even though the accent, I mean, it annoys me that everybody's doing a British accent in what is clearly France. I never know how this works. Like, if they should they be doing French accents even though they're speaking English? Like, I never know how that's supposed to work.
How upset
if you're in German but you're speaking English, you still should have a German accent to make you feel like you're there. I don't know.
Once you've got the actors nailed down, don't you think they just tell them to give them their best whatever it is they're going to do and go, yep, they're right there. Let's push you as much as we can without it affecting your performance. We'll just take whatever we can get from each of you.
I don't know. It would be weirder if they were doing American accents.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just as different. It makes just as much sense, but there'd be some, it wouldn't make sense. There would be some, what was that fucking word?
Cognitive dissonance?
Cognitive dissonance. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes. Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Doug Ray Scott is very charming.
Random coincidence.
He was cast to be Wolverine in X-Men, the movie we're going to talk about next, and he had to drop out due to shooting commitments for Mission Impossible 2, which was running really long. So he would have been
That's just weird. I mean,
Wolverine.
Matt picked X-Men before I had any idea what I was going to pick for this week, and then he's done 4 movies, so it's just strange that those are the two.
Right. Though he's kind of delightful here.
He is delightful.
It's a shame he's not. I think he does TV and British stuff.
His cod piece will remain
sure he's okay.
in my mind for the
cod
rest
pieces were a big thing for you.
They're a big thing for them.
Yeah.
They were large pieces of cod.
Well, you just kept pointing them out. Oh, cod piece.
They're so. It's like someone with an exceptional Adam's apple, just constantly just protruding.
Did you grow up with the Disney animated Cinderella?
It wasn't one of them. I mean, I was aware of it. I've seen it, but it wasn't. It didn't speak to me. It wasn't. The older Disney movies I did not watch a lot. It's right around 101 Dalmatians is where I started to watch more frequently things like Lady and the Tramp.
Okay. Well, Lady and the Tramp.
Rescuers Down Under.
Yeah.
Like.
Lady and the Tramp is like 1950. Is in the 50s. Cinderella's in the 50s, but then Dalmatians is in the 60s.
Well, yeah, I guess I wasn't really a princess person. It wasn't until Beauty and the Beast did I watch a princess movie a lot.
I think Beauty and the Beast was the only princess movie that I owned, Because I was thinking, like, why didn't I watch Cinderella? Well, I didn't own Cinderella, but I remember being a kid and, like, wishing that I owned Cinderella and wishing that I owned Little Mermaid. I remember being into Sleeping Beauty.
That is a princess movie. I certainly watched that one plenty.
But not feeling okay that I was into these movies. Mm-hmm. I also remember if I was watching TV and a toy commercial came on for a toy that was a girl's toy, and one of my parents was in the room, I would look away and make sure that they noticed that I wasn't watching.
Ew.
Yeah,
Aw,
like,
that
don't like
sucks.
this.
That's a lot of pressure.
You know,
Okay. Little baby.
kind of feel like Rogue from X-Men sometimes.
All right, well, that's
That
Ever
is a
After.
segue. Mm-hmm. Yes.
3, 4. Everybody, love Mary Keens, love Mary